Rewind selector. Rewind selector. Rewind selector. Rewind selector. Rewind selector. Rewind selector.
I've been working on getting Chaos good off leash in different places. It's a good skill to have. Whether we actually use it, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll really ever get him to the point where I can just take him for walks off leash on trails, but it's a good skill to have regardless. So check out some of the work we did. This is the first time we worked off leash. In a desert, in a quiet place where there were no distractions. And I think he did pretty well. See? Good boy. Good boy for looking back. And Asta, you get a treat too. Can't treat one without the other. There's a good job. Get your ball. Let's go. Chaos, come. See? Oh, good boy. All right, come on. Good boy. He's next to me, being good. See? Nice. I'm going to reward you for just staying close to me. I've had a few people ask me about the fencing that I use for my dogs, so let's talk about the pros and cons of using fencing to keep your dogs in your space, in your area, versus using cables. Fencing keeps trained dogs or less motivated dogs inside their area, which means if your dog is not prone to jumping over the fence or pushing its way through the fence or digging out, this might be a good option for you. It also keeps kids and wildlife, other dogs, away from your dogs, or at least slows them down, and well-meaning adults too. Sometimes, people will walk up and try to pet your dog, and that's not always a good idea, especially if you're not out there with your dog. The fencing is also a good security feature. If you're not there or your dog is not there, let's say you go out for a hike, people don't know necessarily if you left, and they don't know if the dog is there or not. Also, it's good for the final sweep. So when you're leaving your site, all the dog toys and any dog waste that you might have missed is in a contained area. So you can sweep it quickly and see if you have left anything behind. Here's another cool thing, you guys. This fencing keeps your dogs away from things you don't want them to get into. Fire ants, holes dug by other dogs if you don't want your dog around those holes, and grease from people cooking that were in the site before you. In this case, I am fencing my dogs away from the shelter and patio area just because I don't really use it much and there's no reason for them to be up there. So let's talk about some of the cons of having fencing for your dogs. So it doesn't stop a dog who is highly motivated to get out of the fence. Just like your backyard fence, if a dog is motivated, they will get out. So not a good idea if your dog will jump the fence, dig under the fence, or push through the fence. This fencing is not always allowed in private parks. Let's face it, it's not always the prettiest thing to look at. And that's probably a reason why a lot of private parks don't allow it. It's not that aesthetically pleasing. Although I think it's far safer in most cases, it's not as good looking. You also need space in your cargo bay to hold all this fencing. So depending on how much you have, and if you're using metal fencing, it's heavy and your cargo space needs to be able to accommodate that. So you need a fair amount of space to hold this stuff. It can scratch your rig as well, not just in the cargo bay where you store it while you're driving, but also while it's set up. If you put it against your rig, it may scratch it. You can always buy pipe insulation from a home improvement store and just lay it across the top of the fencing, especially if you have the metal fencing, and it has a slit at one side of the pipe insulation, and you just lay that slit, open it up, lay it across your fencing. Also, use the snaps. The snaps come with it. I simply snap the sections together like this. I do it low down because I have a small dog who will push his way through the fence on occasion if he really wants to get out. So snapping it low down like this stops him from pushing his way out. If you're interested in getting this kind of fencing for your dogs, it's called X-Pen or exercise pen. So basically it's just like a playpen for dogs. You can find this fencing or X-Pen at most pet stores. Even Walmart carries them. As you can see here, you will have to customize it if you want it to fit underneath your door. This is a metal fence, so I used wire cutters and I was able to cut out a pattern to make it fit under the door. Plastic fencing might be a little bit harder. You could use smaller fencing, like maybe the 1 foot high fencing. It's a little garden fencing. You could probably use that against your rig if you didn't have the ability or didn't want to cut it. So you guys, here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this topic about fencing. It does not replace your ability to pay attention to your dogs. So in other words, don't set up a fence and think you can go take a shower or watch a movie and not pay attention to your dogs. You still have to pay attention. Fencing only buys you a little bit of time if something is going on. It does not prevent dog fights necessarily. It doesn't prevent somebody from sticking their hands over your fence to pet your dog, or even kids for that matter, sticking their fingers through the fence. I hope this information helps you, and let me know what you do with your dogs. Do you tie them out? Why? Why not? And do you use fencing? And let me know how that works for you. And if I missed anything about pros and cons, let me know. Let's add it to the list.